Hi friends, this is Professor Vinod D'Souza, Associate Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, AJ Institute of Engineering and Technology, Mangalore. Today we will discuss the topic called as vibration methods. In the second module, we have discussed about compaction. Compaction is a technique by which using various devices, we are trying to remove the air contents from the soil, and that can be done for a shallow depths. We are using various devices or various instruments for that, such as smooth wheel rollers, pneumatic rollers, vibrators, rammers. Okay, all these are used, and the soil is compacted for a shallow depths. But in case of non-cohesive soils, these compaction methods will not give much strength for the soil. We need to vibrate such type of soils so that the grains will be rearranged and the required density will be achieved. Stabilization of non-cohesive soils in deep layers will be done by using this technique called as vibration methods. When vibration is applied to such soils, they rearrange themselves under gravitational forces and become denser by reducing the voids and compressing the soil. The density achieved by this process will be permanent. This technique can be used for both type of soil. Either the soil is in wet condition or the soil is in dry conditions. The effect of vibration consolidates and strengthens the ground. This type of technique is helpful to compact non-cohesive soils such as sand that would be that would otherwise be non-suitable for any type of constructions. Since cohesive soils don't respond to vibration, the process is not suitable for these types of soils. The vibrocompaction techniques compacts granular soils with negligible fines contents by rearranging the soil particles into a denser state. In this topic, we are learning various types of vibration methods, and they are blasting techniques, dynamic compaction, vibratory probe, vibratory compactors, vibroflotation techniques, sand compaction piles, and stone columns. The inertia forces become significant in comparison to static forces when the applied load on the soil mass changes rapidly, causing excessive deformation of the soil. When we apply the dynamic loads to the soil, there will be a sudden impact to the soil, and because of this impact, there will be a rearrangement of the soil particles, and this is how the soil gets strengthened or densified. This characteristics behavior could be used in any ground improvement techniques by the way of adopting some form of vibrations that could bring the deformation and displacement, resulting in densification of the soil. The techniques involved here is vibration, watering, and rolling. The rolling technique is a static process by which only the cohesive soils can be compacted. Whereas for non-cohesive soils, where the particle sizes are large, example sandy soils, here the rolling will not give us the much expected results. We cannot compact the sandy soils. Whereas if we use the vibration techniques or some type of dynamic methods, we can rearrange the particles, and since the rearranging particles will bring the particles closer to each other, the required density can be attained. Cohesionless soils get densified largely by fracture and reorientation of the grains. Because of these reorientations, the grains will rearrange themselves and they will be in contact with each particles, so that the odds between them will be less. Static forces are not effective in this process, but both vibration and shock are helpful in reducing the wedging and aiding densification in cohesive soils. Vibration and shocks are less effective in cohesive soils because cohesive soils, as because of intergranular forces, they will be attached together. There will be more cohesive forces will present in this cohesive soils like clay, silt, etc. And we cannot get much results by using this vibration techniques. We'll discuss about the method called as vibrocompaction. Vibrocompaction method is a rapid densification technique which could be used effectively in saturated cohesionless soil. For this method, the soil should be fully saturated. In such loose deposits, when we apply vibrations or when we apply certain shock waves to the soil, it causes localized spontaneous liquefaction followed by densification and settlements. The load which we applied due to shock is temporarily transferred to the liquid, and the soil particles take a much denser pattern aided by the soil particle. Even in the soils, due to shock and vibration, the particles will move from its original position and take a new position which will be very near to the other particles and which will attain a more compact pattern. Once the particles are freed or loosened due to the shock waves, later even a small pressure is sufficient to put them in a compact manner. That's why once the vibrations is done or once the shock waves are created inside the soil, later a small compaction is sufficient to hold them together, and whatever the density attained by this process, it will be permanent and we cannot reverse that technique. The effectiveness of this method decreases with the increase in fine contents in the soil. If there is fine contents or finer soil present in the soil, the permeability of the soil will be reduced. The water which will be there inside the soil is not possible to go away quickly. Hence, it will reduces the effect. If more than 20% of silt or 5% of clay will present in the soil, it will reduce the effectiveness of this method. The three methods which are in use by these techniques are blasting, vibratory probe, and vibratory compactors. The next technique which we are going to discuss is called as blasting. Blasting is a simple technique by which we are blasting the soil by using some detonator to a required depth, and thereby we are creating shock waves inside the soil, and because of these shocks waves will produce inside the soil mass, and because of that the soil gets densified. In this technique, a certain amount of explosive charge is buried at a certain depth of cohesionless soil required to be compacted and then detonated. By using this technique, we can compact the soil to a required depth, maybe around 3 meters, 5 meters, or 10 meters below the ground level. And up to that level, we have to keep the detonators and then we have to blast that detonator so that the energy is spread for all the particles throughout the soil. The shock waves produced by blasting causes densification of the soil. The method is suitable for dry soils. Also, it is suitable for saturated soils also. The procedure is simple. A pipe of 7.5 to 10 centimeter is driven to the required depth in the soil strata. A normal pipe may be driven. The diameter will be around 7.5 to 10 centimeter so that we can place the detonator inside the pipe, and this pipe should be driven to the required depth. Then the sticks of dynamite and an electric detonator should be wrapped in a waterproof bundle and they should be lowered through the casing, because there are chances that we may get through the water below the ground. So in order to prevent this dynamite and electric detonator damped with the water, we have to cover this with the waterproof bundles so that they will remain dry, so that when they will be ignited, the fire catches easily and easily it can be blasted. Later, the casing is withdrawn and a weight of paper or wood is placed against the charge of explosives to protect it from misfire. Once the casing is withdrawn, it should be covered from the top so that there won't be any misfires. Later, the hole is backfilled with sand in order to obtain a full force of blast. If that is not backfilled, we will not get the maximum force because the hole will be hollow. So in order to avoid that, the top layer of the detonator should be covered with sand and the hole should be closed. The electric circuit is closed to fire the charge. Okay, the wires which will run to the ground level, they should be closed so that it will fire the charges. Sometimes it is required to blast number of holes in a ground. A series of holes are made ready. Each hole is detonated in succession and the resulting large diameter hole formed by lateral displacement are backfilled. When the shock waves travel inside the soil, there will be displacement at the top of the ground. Later, these holes should be filled with sand and they should be compacted so that the entire soil mass gets densified. The surface settlements are measured by taking levels or from screw plates embedded at certain depth below the ground surface. By using these techniques, we can find out how much displacement has taken place or how much settlement the soil has attained, and which by using which we can calculate the strength of the soil. The figure shows the schematic diagrams, how the detonator is placed inside the soil and how the shock waves will travel inside the soil. The first figure shows the casing, which will be around 7.5 to 10 centimeter diameter. The casing is driven inside the ground. Later, inside the casing, dynamite sticks and detonators are placed, and the top they are plugged. Once they are plugged at the top, the hole is filled with the sand. The wires are connecting to the ground level. They are connected and then they are blasted so that the waves will travel throughout the sides. And the left figure shows how the energy is transferred to the bottom as well as to the sides. This is the process called as blasting. Usually, the explosives are arranged in the form of a horizontal grid. The spacing of the charge is decided by the depth of the strata to be densified, the size of the charge, and the overlapping of the charges. This is how we can decide the spacing of the blastings. We have to know what should be the strata which we are going to densify, whether the strata is hard or whether the strata is loose. We should know the amount of charges which we are going to place inside the soils. If we are going to place the huge charges, then we require a larger spacing. In the meantime, if we are providing small amount of charges, then the holes should be nearer so that the energy is spread throughout the mass of the soil. And we have to see what is the overlapping of these charges. And based on all these data, we can decide what should be the spacing of these holes. A spacing of 3 to 8 meters is typical, and the spacing which is less than 3 meter should be avoided. And normally the compaction is carried out in a single tire only if the depth to be densified is 10 meter or less. In such cases, depth of explosive charge should be below half the depth of the mass or stratum to be densified. More than one tire should be planned if the depth of stratum to be densified is more than 10 meters. Generally, the depth of charge should be greater than the radius of the sphere of influence. Successive blasts of small charges at appropriate spacings are likely to be more effective than a single large blast. If you say theoretically, one charge densifies the surrounding adjacent soil and the soil beneath the blast. Charges should be timed to explode such that the bottom of the layer being densified upwards in a uniform manner. The uppermost portion of the stratum may be densified less, which may be later compacted by vibratory rollers. A carefully placed charge with the required amount and depth shall not create a surface heave more than 0.15 meters. The one more figure here shows what should be the pattern of blasting. The square symbol shows those holes should be blasted first, then the circular figure should be blasted, and last the triangular figure should be blasted so that the energy is transferred uniformly to all the masses of the soil. So this is called as the firing pattern of the soil. Charge masses of less than 2 kg to more than 30 kg have been used for this process. This method of blasting involves less time, also involves less labor, and it is less expensive. Once the blasting is arranged, quickly it can be blasted so that within few hours or few minutes we can achieve the required densification. Also, labors required here will be less because we doesn't require much equipments or much instruments are needed here. Only the blasting itself does all its work. As compared to other techniques, this is much little expensive because we have to put more money to buy the expenses. This technique needs no special equipments and should be carefully used for densifying soil at a greater depth. This could be effectively used to compact a large volume to a substantial depth up to 20 meters, and in small areas where the use of other methods may be impractical. Say, if you are going to plan for vibro flotation or vibro compaction techniques or dynamic compaction methods, we require largest places so that the vehicle has to move from one place to other place. Whereas if it is a small area where it is difficult to move the vehicles from one place to other places, this plastic techniques gives us the good results. Relative density of 70 to 80% can be achieved by these techniques. In remote areas where vibrations are favorable, the technique may prove to be most cost effective, because in case of remote areas the huge vehicles will not able to travel, whereas it's not possible to carry the huge vehicles, huge weight, all these things. In such cases, blasting technique will prove to be most cost effective. Invariably, the blasting work should be executed only by an experienced contractor under special supervision. This point has to be noted very seriously, because here the risk involved is more. That's why only experienced contractor can execute these types of works, and you should have specially trained supervisors. When the blast, when the detonator has ignited, you should see that nobody is there in that area. You should you should evacuate the entire area. Nobody should present at that area, otherwise there will be a damage to the substance and health. The method suffers the disadvantages of non-uniformity, potential adverse effect on adjacent structures, and the danger associated with the use of explosive in populated areas. If you have houses surrounding the area, there is chances that because of this blasting, there will be some adverse effect on the structures. You may notice some cracks on the walls because of the shock waves which will travel inside the ground level. If it is populated area, it is difficult to control the people because they will be more excited to see the blasting, so it is difficult to control them. That's why in case of populated areas this will prove to be difficult to handle. Very fine grained soils which have high cohesive forces cannot be compacted by this method. As we know that in case of fine grained soil, cohesive force will be more, hence the particles will be sticking to each other, and the water which is there inside the cohesive soils, it is difficult to come out because of the less permeability. Hence in these cases this method proves to be most difficult. Maximum compaction is obtained only when the soil is dry or completely saturated. Either the soil should be dry or soil should be completely saturated, then only we can expect the maximum results. In case of dry sand, good results are obtained due to free fall of small size particles into the voids between the soil grains, thus making a dense soil. If the sand particles are dry, then because of this blasting or because of these shock waves, the loose particles will come and fill the gap between the other particles, and hence the voids ratio will be reduced, and because of that we will get a much densified soil. In case of saturated soil, shock waves causes liquefaction leading to expulsion of water, resulting in a better arrangement of particles. When the soil is fully saturated, because of these shocks, a liquefaction process occurs, and because of this liquefaction, the water suddenly disappears from the place. It will find a way and it will go away from the particles. The particles will be dry and they will rearrange themselves so that the density will be higher. But in partially saturated soil, due to capillary tension between the soil grains, less densification will be achieved. Okay? That's why this method will not give the good results in case of partially saturated soils. For carrying out this technique, we have to we have to consider the following data. One is type of soil. What type of soil is available below the ground level where we are going to do the blasting techniques? We have to see whether soil is cohesive soils or whether it is non-cohesive soils, because as we have discussed, this method holds good for only non-cohesive soils. That's why first we have to find out what is the type of soil available below the ground level. Then we have to see what should be the degree of saturation, because in the previous discussions we have seen, if the soil should be either dry or it should be fully saturated, then only we will get the good results because of this blastings. We should first find out what should be the depth of deposit to be densified, whether it should be 5 meter, 10 meter or 15 meter below the ground level. That has to be calculated, and degree of densification required should be collected. By using the soil, by using other various techniques, we have to find out what should be the degree of densification achieved, and for that we have to calculate the relative densities. What should be the void ratio in the beginning, what is the void ratio after densification, and what is the normal void ratio of the soil, and based on that we can calculate the relative density of the soil. A preliminary test may be necessary to ascertain spacing, depth, amount of charge and sequence of operations. Before going for the exact method, a preliminary investigation, a preliminary test we have to do it, and from this preliminary test we have to ascertain what should the spacing we can keep for a holes, what's the depth we can go below the ground level, how much amount of charge is required to densify the soil, and what should be the sequence of operation. Everything has to be planned properly, and then only we have to go for the final blasting. It's in order to evaluate the economic feasibility of this technique that above details are very much needed. Then only you can get the required results or required densification of the soil. The next method which we are going to discuss is called as dynamic compaction. Here the name itself signifies this method involves giving dynamic force, adding dynamic force to the soil, and that's how we can compact the soil. Dynamic compaction is a method that is used to increase the density of the soil when certain subsurface constraints make other methods inappropriate. By adopting the other methods, other compacting methods like rollers, surface compactors, vibration, all these things, we can compact the soil at the ground level. But more deeper inside the ground level, it is difficult to compact. Either we have to go for the other techniques that is called as blasting or vibro flotation techniques. So dynamic compaction is one of the best method to compact the soil more deeper inside the ground level. It is a method that is used to increase the density of the soil deposit. The process involved here is dropping a heavy weight repeatedly on the ground at regular space intervals. The concept involved here is improving the mechanical properties of the soil by transmitting high energy input to loose granular soils. We are improving the mechanical properties here, like we are improving the strength, we are improving the density of the soil, we are improving the compaction properties of the soil. All this can be done by transmitting a high energy input to the loose granular soils. When the high impact energy is provided to these loose soils, the soil particles rearrange themselves and will come closer to each other, and that's how we can increase the density of the soil. The impact creates body and surface waves that propagate in the soil medium. Normally in non-saturated soils, the waves displace the soil grains and rearrange them in a denser configurations. In case of saturated ground, the soil is liquefied and the grains rearranged in a more compact state. In case of saturated soils, what happened is when the dynamic compaction, or when the weight falls over the soil, the impact energy will be there, and because of that impact energy, liquefaction occurs, and the water which is there inside the soil will escape quickly, because coarse grained soils, they are having more permeability, and because of it permits the water to wash away easily from this porous. Hence, the grains rearrange themselves, and that's how we can get the required density in case of these soils. In both the cases, the decrease in voids and increase of inner granular contact will directly lead to improved soil particles. The weight normally used here is up to 45,000 kgs, or 25 to 50 tons of weight can be used, and the height of fall will be normally 15 to 40 meters. Okay, the weight freely falls on the ground surface. The heavy impact on the ground leaves its marks behind. The impact energy on cohesionless soils causes liquefaction followed by settlement due to rapid change. Sometimes in some soils, radial fissures are formed around the impact, facilitating rapid drainage. Here you can see the figure shows how this process is done in the field. A huge crane is required for this, because we need to lift the huge weights. Say the weight is around 25 to 50 tons, and these weights has to be lifted for a height of around 15 to 40 meters over the ground level, and then later it is allowed to fall freely on the ground surface. When it falls freely on the ground surface, the waves, shock waves, travel inside the grounds, and they'll make this particles rearrange themselves, and that's how the densification is achieved. Once the weight falls on the grounds, it creates an impression on the ground surface. The top portion of the ground creates holes. Later these holes will be filled by the good soil, and they are compacted. Surface compaction is done so that we can achieve the required compactions. You can see how the compaction is done, so that each compaction layer gets overlapped themselves by each other. That's how the part 3, part 2 and part 1 of the ground gets compacted, so that the energy travels more deeper inside the ground level. This is the process of compaction. And the other figure shows how the compaction is done in layers by layers. This process is repeated either at same location or subsequently over other parts of the area intended for stabilization at around 10 to 5 to 10 meter of spacings. So again, the spacings are decided based on the type of the soil and the depth which we require to get densification, and based on that we can decide the spacings, and the spacing will vary from 5 to 10 meters. It is essential to avoid the formation of a thick surface crust at too early a stage in the operations. After allowing the required number of drops, the area shall be compacted at depth. Okay. As the required number of drops are allowed, the deeper soil gets compacted by themselves. However, the soil at the shallow depth from the surface will be in a great disturbed conditions, because since the weight is dropping from a height, there will be impressions on the ground level, and the top surface of the soil gets disturbed. Around 1 to 2 meter depth of the soil gets disturbed. Later here a new soil is filled. These depressions are filled with a new type of soil, and later they are compacted by using the surface rollers, and that's how we will get a good compacted mass all under the ground. This upper layer of to depth of 2 meter is then compacted using a smaller weight with greater area, and is dropped from a smaller height. The usual energy per blow is in the range of 135 into the power 3 to 450 into the power 3 kg meter. with the values as high as 900 into 10 to the power 3 and to 1800 into 10 to the power 3 kg meter are sometimes used. Generally, a total tamping energy of 2 to 3 blows per square meter is used. Okay, the 2 to 3 blows per square meter gives the required energy by which we can densify the soils. Efficiency could be increased if the impact velocity exceeds the wave velocity in a liquefying soil. When a weight strikes the ground surface, it produces P, S, and R waves. Normally, in earthquake or shocks, we will get this type of waves, and they are called as P, S, and R waves. Rigorous analysis model of the process is still not available, but still, based on certain theories, we can generate this type of waves. In nearly saturated soil, the P waves cause direct compression and induce pore water pressure. Densification is also brought in by S waves by mobilizing shear forces in a particle, but the R waves and other surface waves are attempting to lose the surface soil and harmful in damaging the adjacent structures. So care should be taken to see that there won't be any damage to the adjacent structures by these R waves. That's why sufficient care is taken. If there are lot many buildings near the ground, then this method is avoided because it creates a lot of problems in the adjoining structures. Still, there is no perfect theories available, but only empirical formulas are available to assess the depth of penetration of the compaction. So you can see this figure where it shows the lift weight which is lifted to a height of h. The W is the mass of the weight, h is the drop height, and D is maximum depth of improvement. Based on this, considering effective depth as a function of impact energy, the depth of penetration is within the following range, that is 1.26 into square root of WH should be less than D, should be less than 3.16 into square root of W into H, where D is called as effective depth, W is weight being dropped, and capital H is the height of drop in meters. This technique derive its merits because of the following reasons. It is one of the simplest and most basic methods of compacting loose soil. Though various methods are available like blasting, vapor all these methods, but this is the simple method for compacting the loose soil much deeper inside the ground level. Here we can compact the soil up to a depth of 20 meters below the ground level. Normally all type of soils can be compacted by these techniques because here the weight falls from a height. That's how either coarse grained soils, cohesive soils, or non-cohesive soils, both type of soils can be compacted by these techniques. That is the speciality of this method. It produces equal settlements more quickly than surcharge type loading. Okay, in same type of loading, in some methods there will be unequal settlements occur in the soil, but here we have seen that it produces equal settlements quickly. As you drop the weight, the settlements are going to occur, and it can be used to treat soils both above and below the water table. So the water table is not at all a criteria for this type of method. If water table is there, either top of that or below the water, same type of compaction we can achieve by using this method. The major variables involved in this process are: one is magnitude of the weight. What is the weight we are going to adopt for this process? That we have to decide, and that will be the variable. Sometimes we will get huge weights, sometimes we will get less weights. Based on that, we have to decide what depth we are going to do the compaction. Second variable is called as size of the weight. As the weight increases, size also increases, and when we have huge weights, it's difficult to lift, so that we require huge machineries. Third variable is called as height of free fall of the weight. Again, this height, it will decide based on what type of equipments were available to lift the weight. If you have good equipment where we can lift it for a huge heights, then we can get good compaction below the ground levels. Next point is number of drops per location. How many times you have to drop the weight freely on a particular location, that is also one of the variable. Normally it says that 2 to 3 drops per square meter is sufficient. Again, it depends on what type of soil is available or what type of strata is available for the ground level. Distribution of drop location over the site is a very important factor. You have to see that the distribution of this drop such that there will be an overlap of waves below the ground level. Normally at the ground level, there will if you provide small overlaps, a good densification is achieved for the soil. Non-homogeneity of the soil. Sometimes the soil will not be homogeneous at the place. Various types of soils are available, and because of that, various types of density can be achieved for different types of soil. Strength and permeability, anisotropy of the soil. Again, it varies because of the different types of soil below the ground level, and degree of saturation of the soil. Either the soil is fully saturated, partially saturated, or completely dry. So these variable has to be considered before designing this type of method. The application of this technique is widely used and reported in various literatures. From the above field application, it is evident that there is significant improvement attained in soil properties due to this technique. The improved properties of the soil after treatment can be calculated by the following test, that is by conducting cone or standard penetration test, or by monitoring the surface settlements and pore pressures, by conducting tests on the treated undisturbed samples for physical, hydraulic and mechanical properties. This method has been underestimated in the past, but it is evidently a cost-effective method which could be used for improvement of all soils in a varied field conditions. Following video shows how the densification can be done by using dynamic compaction. You can see the crane which is lifting a huge weight, then it is dropping from a height of around 15 to 40 meters, and the right figure shows how the densification occurs below the ground level by the impact of this. Now see how the crane moves from one position to another position, so that there will be overlapping of the energies. This is how the pattern is created. Each and every places the dynamic later the top layer is covered with a good type of soil, and it is rolled by using surface rollers. Once the first step is over, then again it will be done in the second phase. Normally if you want to compact the soil for a depth of 10 meter, one phase is sufficient, but if it is required to compact more than 10 meters, then you have to do the compaction in 2 layers. Now once the compaction is done, since the top layer will be under loose conditions, then it is compacted by using light weights and height of fall will be less, so that you will see that entire area is compacted and will get a good results of compaction. You can see here how the top layer is compacted. Roller compactors are used to compact the top layer of the soil, and that's how the entire compaction is achieved. So various methods are used like cone penetration test, sanit penetration test are used to find out the degree of compaction. One more video which shows the dynamic compaction done at the site, how it is done, and various techniques involved. All it is shown in this video. Thank you.